Um, how do I put this one? Naturally, it's going to go back to when I had this equipment up and running. Well, that's a number 4, a tetrahedron, firelight. Um, when we get into what we call the messenger and the message. Ever heard of the old saying, shoot the messenger and the message dies? Now, because I spent so many years in teaching, or if you will, imparting information based on what I learned that I share with others. So, for example, if I learn how to become a lifeguard, right, and I've actually been a lifeguard and I've gone out to protect somebody from drowning, right, by virtue of learning how to do that, then I learned from somebody else how to do that, right? And then once I have had experience doing it, that's called vocational education, right? You learn by doing. Okay, so now what I can do is I can share my stories of what it was like to be a lifeguard, okay? So why would you shoot the lifeguard if he's simply sharing with others what I've experienced by what I've learned? So that was the first qualifier that I put up. I'm simply sharing what I've experienced. That's it. From what I've learned through experience. And that's called a mirror, right? Running a hot mirror, right? So that everything that's in your mirror is on fire because you're on fire. The spirit of fire that's in that eternal sun, which is eternal unconditional love, right? And that fire, the amount of that fire is accelerating electrons, right? Kicking them out like gangbusters, right? So that I'm not experiencing what? Any loss of voltage in you that I'm experiencing in me, right? Now we're back to the mirror. I am what you are. I'm experiencing a loss of voltage in you. I'm experiencing a loss in me, right? Now that gets recorded in what? Water memory, cellular memory. That's as simple as it gets, huh? So that becomes a qualifier, which means that we tell stories. We share what we've learned by the stories that we tell. And those of us that went through their schools to become teachers, if you will, or pedagogy, learning theory, behavioral sciences, environmental sciences, right? How cycles work, right? The water cycle on the planet, how atmospherics work to maintain the balance between the poles, right? Between fire and ice consciousness. You know, living, breathing, planetary, living organisms. And so yeah, it's fun. And so the reason that I share this is because it took me the better part of 10 years to be able to recover a nosedive. You know, when I'm doing this, because of the amount of emotional trauma that you're experiencing. And so I described this in a video a long way back about what's called burning the bulb out, the filaments, the nerve fibers. How much can the central nervous system handle, because that's the endocrine system, right, of stress, right, of experiencing such an enormous amount of trauma on every level in which it's experienced. Every level of energy that is aware of itself, communicating with everything else that is aware of itself. What we become aware of that we experience by virtue of all the parts that we're connected to, they're experiencing what they're experiencing. So we're all experiencing balance. That means that all the energy that is self-aware is in balance. So we're all doing a dance in spirit, which is the music, which is the math. Now the math works, right? That means that the gates work. That means that the consciousness that is holding the gates open work for everybody so that we can all transit peacefully through the network. Networkers. Yeah, networkers are grid workers. Right? building networks, building tree trunks of communication between everything that is aware of itself, that's communicating with everything else that's got an antenna. Right? Now I'm picking up the signal. Hey, what are you experiencing? Now you're experiencing the wave of communication. Wave. How y'all doing? I'm waving. The metronome. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Speed it up. Become one with all creation that we're gifting love to. So I actually forgot what I was going to do on this particular video, but it doesn't matter. It had something to do with circulation libraries. Oh yeah, now I remember what it is. That's how I came back full circle. Take a breath. Be good to yourself. And that is that experience. Like, I'll just give you an example, because most folks that have ever gone to school, and anybody that's ever gone through any teacher training academy or teacher training education program, right, at any college or university or whatever school you've been to learn how to teach or learn how to be a microphone, to communicate to others, the language that we use to communicate with, and music, which is math. So in this case, I realized this is going to be a large thing to sort of sound compress, right, and expand out with a big coil of information that's related to everything that's held in libraries, which is record-keeping exercises, is to be able to cross-reference the visual information, mathematical data. So what happens is that I speak in a language of experience by virtue of what I've experienced that others can relate to. And what we relate to is called a relationship of communication, because they have experienced things that I've experienced, so we have a common bond of communication, because we relate to the experiences that relate to what? Causality. Why we're experiencing such imbalance, if you will, of people not communicating in a way in which we're all getting along, right? So that people are free to experience who they are without what? Interference, redirects, signals that are interfering with your ability to be free to thus create and experience what you choose to experience, because your energy, which is your mind's energy, which is your consciousness, not being held captive by something that has a feeder line attached to it, to redirect your consciousness by that implant. Right? It's like saying, well, I want to experience this. Oh, no, you're not. You're going to experience this. You're going to experience what we want you to experience, which is who we are rather than who you are, because we're in a black hole. That's a consciousness trap. And that becomes a very fine line. And when I realized I was a child, understand the difference between the two, and the difference between the two is the torque speed. So what happens is I realized as a child, I'm measuring the torque speed of the gyrodome on the planet. Why it's out of balance. Right? Which means the gates are out of balance. So scale that up on a cosmic level. Right? So that's why I did what I did in 2016. And what happens is all the frames, right? All the frame rates. If you ever remember, for those that have experienced, remember, see, I'm sharing what I've experienced when I was a child, when I went to Disneyland, when they first opened it up. If you went to the Penny Arcade, they had this machine, if you will, in which a landscape, or what you could see on the visible light spectrum image, was on a plate, like a square plate. And they'd have plate after plate after plate after plate, like a stack, but it was stacked horizontally rather than vertically, right? And then you'd see in that, and that's like a frame of reference, or a visual mathematical information frame of holographic information, right? So you have one frame, square, and then one behind that, one behind that, one behind that, one behind that, one behind that. So if you've ever seen some of the old 70 millimeter films, when they used to wind them up in a can, when if you were a child in school, say in the 50s, 60s, or 70s, and they come out with a 2-reel projector with a screen in front of the classroom, and they'd run, an open reel, which is an empty reel, and the one that's got all the film in it. And if you've ever put the film itself under the light, you can see how the frames, are sequenced one after the next. Without getting into how they we're doing that in Hollywood, or how you can cut and paste, or what are known as holographic inserts. So what happens is that when I realized I wrote my own timeline, it's an acknowledgement of that by all the frames that are sequenced, going all the way back to the beginning at a very high rate of speed. It's like, but I can see them. It's not as if they're going in slow-mo where I get a chance to take a look at each frame that I was experiencing holographically in my mirror, because they're moving so fast, right? So you can imagine how many frames that actually is. It's like rewinding your movie, the one that you ran, which is a holographic movie. So you're a holographic movie projector. So it's going all the way back, right? And then we're going to rewind it back. And when it comes all the way back, then it gets uploaded. Okay? And then I got confirmation up above. Hey, you're one of us. I know. Here it all is. So it's you're compiling data, visual information, holographic information, if you will, for the underlying causality. So that's one of the reasons why when I was a child, I realized I'm an investigator, trying to figure out what the hell happened to my universe. Okay? And then, on the other hand, being an experiencer, being an observer, a multitasker, wearing all kinds of different hats, because the rate at which we experience change by virtue of everything that we're connected to, which is everything that began out of what love is, try and quantify that. Right? Because at the end of the day, what it's a measurement of is balance. So at the atmospherics, the atoms are cycling in perfect balance. Perfect balance. And that's zero errors. And that's what it is the speed to make a course direction recovery. And that would be the compass. The magnetic compass bearing, right? On north, east, south, and west. To maintain perfect balance within the center point of every sphere of light. Right? Yeah. That's androgynous. And that's where gender completely disappears off the map. That's the stairway to heaven. So it begins with us. Climbing that ladder. In consciousness. Right? Going vertical and horizontal. And in every which way, which is why I used to sign my letters to all of you. Forever. Always. That's code. When a girl would read that when she's 12 years of age, probably didn't understand what I'm really talking about is forever, four, the math function of 4 points on a compass, 4 arrows on the compass in all ways. So from the center point and the inside of a sphere, it means that everything that's inside that sphere is experiencing eternal unconditional love. Forever. It goes on forever. You can't ever put that fire out. I don't know that she would have understood that. But then that opens up another Pandora's box. Now you got to open up a full-blown library to now see if it's possible for her, because of The healing salvage mission that is represented by this, the capacity, which is a capacitor, to experience that much light of everything that's held in a library that big, that's connected to all the other pieces of information that's held within cellular water memories. That's a large task. So it's easy just to keep it simple. It began out of what love is. Right? So I realized as a little kid, something went wrong here. Right? And then we get into the competitive side of things. You know, and that's where I found that I had a torque speed differential with my father. Even though my father was an angel, okay? But my father believed, as a result of his own experiences, that competition would breed, now we're into breeding experiments, would breed a better end user GUI product, a graphical user interface. Or, if you will, a better operating system, a better DNA operating system, competing against each other, right? Using what? Technology. And so my father and I disagreed on that. I thought it's a lot better if all the units of consciousness are in harmony and balance with each other, that are collaborating with each other in order to be in balance with each other, to maintain the balance in consciousness throughout the entire cosmos, do you think? So now we're talking about we're in balance with the Creator, the Grand Creator. Yeah, so none of us are at war with our Creator. We're not competing against God, are we? Right? God isn't a competitor. Okay? God is an energy giver. God doesn't need to be in competition with anybody. Playing ping pong. The binary checkerboard. So now we're back into an eternal sun. Eternal giving away love. Here, I got all the energy I need. I'm happy and joyful just being what I am in energy. Here, you can have it all. I can't get rid of it fast enough. Why? Because you cannot compress that much energy. You cannot compress that much consciousness down without it wanting to reach critical mass to expand and give away more of what it's aware of, which is itself eternity. So you're an eternal sun, which is eternal consciousness, which is eternal love. That means you're in love with the energy that you are. And when you know that's what you are, you know your identity. You know the relationship that you have with the One, which is the law of least effort in which to do it. And that's as simple as simple does. That's the simplicity of it. Then you have all the other information that's represented by all the libraries that everybody's running on, of what's held in their memory, that they operate on as an API system. Because we're all connected to each other. So I'm experiencing the lady's memories, what's held in her memory that she's held captive to, right? That's causing her to feel depressed yesterday. Because she's yet to restore herself and feel love and joy, right? So, so many of these folks that I run into are in survival mode, trying to get through each day of their lives as best they can. That's why we're here. Anyway, I love you all. Take care of yourselves. Be good to yourselves. It's so beautiful to see the room that I stay in here in this house. Whenever I see the sunbeam putting the light on that tree right there. You gotta love that emerald green, huh? Have a great day. Bye now.